Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Everyone, welcome. Provision of sustenance, Razzaqiyat, a divine attribute. I will talk about the salient points under this divine attribute. I've noted down some references at the bottom. So if anyone is interested to read more, they can go through some of these books. The scope of this presentation. Razzaqiyat is a divine attribute which forms the core of the system of Rabubiyat. It is difficult to separate the two, hence we will find most aspects covered here are also mentioned under the attribute of Rabubiyat. In this presentation, we will look at some finer aspects of this attribute and their significance in relation to human life on this planet. When planet Earth was decided to be an abode for all kinds of life, with human life as the central aim of this creation, everything required to sustain this life and its further evolution was created and placed within the earth. Then with the creative potentials given to Adam, who had the attribute of choice and intent, it is left to him to either discover, create, and utilize these resources using his intellectual abilities without the guidance of Wahi, or to use these potentials within the guidance of the Quran. That is why Wahi preserved for all times. That is, Quran is preserved for all times. Each of these paths have their own consequences. So Adam was told that he has got two paths in life. One is to follow his own desires, and second is to bring his own desires within the guidance of the Quran. The results will be different. We should keep this aspect in mind while sharing this presentation. Outline of this presentation. Razzaqiyat, then is root of Rizq, root of Anfaaq. I included this because Rizq, the sustenance, needs distribution, so Anfaaq will cover that. Rizq, there will be more detailed explanation. Then Allah's system of Rizq, we will look at few verses related to this aspect. What constitutes Rizq? Verses on various aspects of Rizq, for example, halal and haram, distribution aspect, conceptual framework. How to manifest Razzaqiyat in our life. It's an important aspect that what do we do? And conclusions. Razzaqiyat. That means of sustenance which is received from some direction as a gift is called Rizq. But there is one distinction in its basic meaning, and that is that it should be received at the time that it is required. So there is no point in bringing Rizq when the person is not there or the person does not need it. So Rizq is the sustenance in the Quran, according to the Quran, is related to this, that it should be given at the appropriate time where he or she needs it. Hence, meaning of Rizq is that means of sustenance which is received freely from Allah, very important, according to the need of everything, without any effort or repayment. It should be made clear that getting Rizq does not mean that ready-baked bread is put into the mouth of man. By Rizq is meant that all the resources for the physical needs of man are present in the earth, which every needy one can obtain. This wide and vast surface of the earth is the banqueting table, which is called Maida, for the numerous and diverse favors of that Allah who is Razzaq, and which is spread out equally for his creation. The one who has created creation has also made arrangements for its Rizq. So that is important, that if Allah has created us, our Rizq must be in this earth. If we haven't found it, we should look for it. There is one verse, Allahullazi khalaqakum summa razaqakum summa yumitukum summa yuhjikum hal min shurakaikum man yafalu min zalikum min shay'in. Subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. The translation is, it is Allah who has created you. He has provided for your sustenance, so that is important. Then he will cause you to die, and again he will give you life. So this Rizq should cater for both events. Are there any of your partners who can do any of this? So there is no one else who has provided everything in this earth. Human beings only deal with it once it is already present. He is high and beyond their shirk. And we know about shirk that if we associate others in this system, then obviously we will not get the benefits. Root of Rizq. every one of those things from which benefit can be derived, sustenance which living beings get from Allah. Rain is also called rizq and also a defined income. That ration and allowances which are provided to soldiers. Its basic meaning, according to Ibn Faris, is to give something at a fixed time. Then later it is applied to any provision bestowed without any restriction of time. Applications. All edible things are called rizq of Allah. Those means and resources which are required in relation to the development of the self in the hereafter are also called rizq. Hence, rizq means all those means and resources through which the development of the human body and the self keep taking place. So this is important because a lot of time we concentrate more on the physical side of it. There is a lot more on the invisible side of it, which deals with the issues of human self. If the distribution of the means of sustenance in the world is under the guidance of Wahi, leading to the establishment of the system, about those who establish this, Quran states, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And this thing will become clearer as we go through today's presentation. Rizq is attributed to Allah under the system of Deen. Under Deen, the sources of rizq are equally available to all who are needy. Root of Anfaaq. It is that tunnel which has the entry and exit sides both open. Sewn piece of cloth through which the waistband passes with both ends open. That is also called nefa. Something, it is derived from an Arab word, nifa. A person who ensures that there is a way out before entering some group or society, that is a person who is not committed to a cause and is there only for his own narrow benefits, is also called munafiq, and we know about it, hypocrite. In relation to a market where there is continuous import and export taking place. Hence, Anfaaq means to keep own wealth freely available, keeping it open and not holding it back. So it is important that this word has both negative and positive connotations. So we have to see the context in which it is used. Applications. Since keeping wealth open means a decrease in capital, hence the meaning of nifaq is a decrease in something or to end it. Keeping one's wealth open is the negation of the capital. So if we keep our capital, the source of the capital which is coming in, if we keep it freely available, that means it will not accumulate and it will decrease in case it has become accumulated. The Quran states at the fundamental level to keep the outcome of one's efforts held open or available for mankind. Surplus money, which is the basis of capitalism, should be continuously available for the whole of mankind and not remain in individual ownership. So over here, we should keep it in mind that under the collective system, there will be some kind of limited ownership, but it is changing the mentality and changing the central control of the system, which will be for the good of everyone, so it has to be centralized. It is the permanent value of the Quran. In the system of Deen, everyone contributes according to their earnings, and the system ensures that everyone's needs are taken care of. Hence, there is no accumulation of wealth in individual hands. We should keep it in mind that this accumulation also creates cognitive issues, and this issue will be brought up later on. Throughout the Quran, nowhere is the accumulation of wealth noted. This is very important. Right from beginning till the end, Quran says, do not accumulate, i.e. ask to accumulate it individually. In relation to rizq, this should be kept in view. For example, Surah Yusuf is about effective management of rizq at the topmost level. Because Hazrat Yusuf, what he did was that he centralized the whole control, whole economic system, and then was able to carry out the redistribution of it. This is rizq, more detailed explanation. This is a very comprehensive word. Its meaning can be understood by the term means of sustenance, i.e. every one of those things through which human life remains sustained and its nourishment keeps taking place, whether that is in the form where it is obtained automatically from nature, or whether it is in the form in which man through his actions and skills brings about a change, i.e. both natural resources and human production are included. So rizq is not only the raw resources, everything what we do with it is also included. The divine resources are dispersed throughout the world, but to acquire these hard work is required. For example, producing crops from land. Then comes the question of their management and distribution. The nation which carries out work and endeavors according to the established laws of nature obtains plenty of rizq. The one that does not do so gets barely enough rizq. Next is then the nation which distributes this rizq according to the needs of individuals, it achieves prosperity. And this is obvious, it's evidence-based. Among those whom this distribution is according to wrong scales, imbalances are created in that society, i.e., among some rizq becomes accumulated without need, whereas other people cannot even meet their needs. And we can see this state in every country in the world. So overall in the world as well, there are billions and billions of human beings whose basic needs are not adequately met, whereas there are certain who do not know what to do with the accumulated wealth. As far as obtaining rizq by working hard according to the physical laws of Allah is concerned, there is no differentiation between a kafir and mu'min. Whoever will work will get the fruits of his efforts accordingly. The differentiation occurs at the time of distribution of rizq. A mu'min uses it for universal Rabubiyat of mankind according to the permanent values of Allah. A kafir distributes according to his own vested interests, which lead to the creation of imbalances in society. We should keep it in mind that these terms used by the Quran, like kafir, mushrik, these are not derogatory terms. These are the state of human thinking, how those human beings are inclined to think. So that is something we should keep it in mind. And I've taken it from the Tabweeb Quran. System of rizq is a product of well-intentioned planning by Allah. Our appearance on this planet is not by chance or at random or some just a process of evolution which just threw us on this planet. The Quran says, "Qul man yarzuqukum minas samai wal ardi amman yamliku sam'a wal absara wa man yukhrijul hayya minal mayyiti wa yukhrijul mayyita minal hayyi wa man yudabbirul amra fasayaquluna Allah." فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. Say, who is it that gives you rizq from the sky and from the earth? Or who is it that has power over hearing and sight? So this has been given to us very, very for a precise reason. And who is it that brings out the living from the dead and the dead from the living? We have gone over it in our presentation on life and death. And who is it that rules and regulates all affairs? So it's important that we look at the precision, how accurately the whole system has been designed and is being run. They will soon say it is Allah. Will you not then be muttaqi? And we know about muttaqi is even a very high status of being a mu'min and a Muslim, where we understand all of these things. And we are more or less ready to establish the system of Deen. And it's perfectly an achievable state. Amman yabda'ul khalqa summa yu'iduhu wa man yarzuqum minas samai wal ardi ilahun ma'allah qul hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. This is another verse which points to this fact that who originates creation then repeats it. And this is going on right in front of our eyes. And who gives you rizq from heaven and earth? Can there be another ilah besides Allah? So there cannot be. Say, bring forth your argument if you are telling the truth. So understanding these points are important because Quran wants us to be convinced, because we only pursue those goals in life, those desires in life about which we are convinced. I have put down here some thought of my own, and we can always add more to it. Points to note: attention is drawn to the outer world, including the earth as a place of abode, then to our cognitive abilities, and to reflect on the continuous process of life and death in the world. All this is being managed delicately and minutely through the amr of Allah. Finally, all this is made a part of becoming muttaqi. The next verse expands on this by inviting us to reflect on what is noted here. No one else possesses authority over rizq. This is an important aspect which Quran puts forward. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَمْلِكُ لَهُمْ رِزْقًا مِنَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ شَيْءًا وَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ. And obey others than Allah, such as have no power of providing them for rizq with anything in the heavens and the earth, and cannot possibly have such power. I will explain this slightly later. إِنَّمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْثَانًا وَتَخْلُقُونَ إِفْكًا إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ لَا يَمْلِكُونَ لَكُمْ رِزْقًا فَابْتَغُوا عِندَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقَ وَعْبُدُوهُ وَاشْكُرُوا لَهُ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. For you do obey idols besides Allah, and you invent falsehood. The things that you follow besides Allah have no power to give you rizq. Then seek you rizq from Allah, obey Him, and be grateful to Him. That is manifest Razzaqiyat. To Him will you return. All of you are going to. In any case, we know that from law of mukafat, everything follows laws. The next verse is Amman hazallazi yarzukum min amsaka rizqahu bal lajju fi utubin wa nufur. Or who is there that can provide you with rizq if he were to withhold his rizq? It is held back due to absence of Deen. So it is already being held back from majority of mankind and is not meeting their needs because Allah's distribution of rizq is not there. They obstinately persist in insolent impiety and flight. Next is La nasaluka rizqan nahnu narzuquka. We, the system of Deen, will not ask you to provide rizq. We provide rizq for you. Now, this is important for us to understand that whereas Allah has related to Himself that we provide, we should add it mu'mineen. Because we being the junior companions, we are the ones, the human beings who have opted to volunteer for this task called mu'mineen, and then they become muttaqeen. They are the ones who have to carry out all those duties which Allah has taken on Himself. So wherever we read these verses, we should keep this in mind, put ourselves in that it is my responsibility, it is our responsibility to carry out these functions in the human world. And the longer we wait and longer it doesn't happen, the longer humanity will suffer. So that is the point I was trying to point to when I was reading the first verse. What constitutes rizq? The first one is all known and not yet known resources within the earth which contribute to sustaining life on the planet and which can be used by all kinds of life in the world will fall under rizq. Next is this includes everything associated with agriculture, animals, vegetation, minerals, ores, fossil fuel, rain, wind, sunshine, mountains, oceans, fisheries, you name it. Everything is included in that. So we can always add more to it. This is just, I put it down just to illustrate the point. All forms which human intellect and hands create out of these resources will also fall under it, as these help make human life convenient and sustainable. So if there is inconvenience in our life, it is because we are not doing justice to the rizq which is provided by Allah, and there is no Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen. This issue of climate change and its impact on the environment will also form part of it, as humans create problems first and then do firefighting to solve these problems. Because human beings go for immediate benefits without taking into account the long-term effects. So they keep damaging the environment and then they realize that too much has been done and now let's go back and start doing something to amend the errors we have made. Motives vary depending upon their aims. So if there were mu'mineen in the world who had a control of it, this wouldn't have happened even in the first place. If the distribution and management of these means of sustenance falls under the domain of the Quranic value system, this will be termed as Allah's rizq. Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen becomes we, wherever Allah has related to His own direction. All forms of rizq were placed in the world before the arrival of man on the world scene. So this we should keep it in mind that there is nothing omitted. Rizq is also used for the life in the hereafter. We do not know its form at this stage of our understanding. However, the understanding of Razzaqiyat, its manifestation and then implementation will make us eligible for the rizq of the hereafter. So there is an intrinsic link there for us to appreciate. So even if we do not know what kind of a rizq we will need in the hereafter, one thing is very clear, that the rizq of this life, rizq of this world, is the one which will help us to develop that self to that level where we will get the rizq of the hereafter. So both types of rizq are interlinked. Rizq provided is beneficial for human life. Now over here I have tried to explain one verse of the Quran which is very interesting. Kul man harrama zinatallahi allati akhraja li ibadihi wal tayyibati min ar-rizqi. Kul hiya lillazina amanu fil hayati dunya khalisatan yawmal qiyamati kadhalika nufassilu al-ayati liqaumin ya'lamun. Say, who has made haram the beautiful things of Allah, which He has produced for His servants, and the things clean and pure for rizq. So its utilization is extremely important. Say They are in the life of this world for those who have iman, purely for them on the day of Qiyamah. So what Allah has clearly stated over here is that all the good things of life are meant for human beings. Of course, for other life as well, but human beings are the ones who make choices, which one they like, which one they dislike. But everything is made available. Thus do we explain the signs in detail for those who have knowledge. Obviously, the mu'mineen are the ones who get the best out of it because they take into account the hereafter as well. I have noted down some of these points here, points to note. All restrictions imposed by the clergy and others are nullified here. So let's be very, very clear that all that which madhab, a religion, is putting forward is not according to the Quran. The only criteria is the Quran, i.e. from Allah. Life is meant to be fully enjoyed and to draw maximum benefits with no fear and huzn. That feeling of guilt and other things which we have continuously people experience in the domain of religion, that disappears here. All things related to rizq equally available to all human beings, Muslims as well as non-Muslims, because that comes within the physical laws. Presently, the unjust system makes it extremely hard, but during the system of Deen, it will make it easy, i.e. free from fear and grief. Attribute of knowledge will help to grasp this. See, over here, Quran has made it very clear and summed it up that if you have knowledge, you will understand what Quran is trying to tell you. And you will also have knowledge of all the evidences around us. And that is how we progress in our understanding of Razzaqiyat. Next is ascribing halal and haram in rizq is a serious issue. Next verse is, say, see you what things Allah has sent down to you for rizq, yet you hold forbidden, that is haram, some things thereof and some things as lawful, that is halal. Say, has Allah indeed permitted you, or do you invent things to attribute to Allah? Very serious issue. People might think that they can get away with this, and they might be innocently saying this is halal and that is halal. Actually, we are committing an extreme transgression when we curtail the freedom of any human being, because Quran has clearly stated la ikraha fid deen, and anything which we put any prohibition, any ban, any control must be in the light of the Quran. We cannot do that unless we can justify it in the light of the Quran. وَمَا ظَنُّ الَّذِينَ يَفْتَرُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَاذِبَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. And what think those who invent lies against Allah of the day of Qiyamah? That don't they realize that they are accountable for that? Verily, Allah is full of fadl to mankind. Fadl means the bounties, His blessings, His rewards. But most of them do not wish their efforts to come to fruition. Actually, people don't realize that la yashkurun means the efforts which we do must bring optimum results, what they are meant to bring. And what we are getting is limited results of our efforts, which have only consequences for this life, and we cannot take them to the hereafter because they do not affect or help develop ourselves on those lines on which the Quran wants us to develop them. Points to note, Allah has given maximum freedom to Adam to make his choices. No ikrah. Man-devised systems impose restriction on this and subjugate humans both physically as well as cognitively. So what has done is that human man-made system tries to control other human beings, subjugates them, both physically as well as intellectually. Halal and haram are clearly defined by the Quran. For example, on edibles, for example, on eating and drinking, Quran has only forbidden or put some kind of a restriction, haram, on 4 things, and 4 things are declared as haram. Even those are permitted under exceptional circumstances. So imagine how Quran has taken a tolerant view of the human existence. And we will deal with it at some other point, these halal and harams of the Quran. Curtailing by anyone of human freedom provided by Allah through the Quran is an extremely serious crime against humanity. Comprehending this aspect is part of this attribute. So we need to understand it as well, that why people do it and what are the benefits which are attached for those people who declare these things haram over and above what Allah has already provided us with the guidance. Rizq Kareem. فَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَرِزْقٌ كَرِيمٌ. Those who acquire Iman and do solid deeds, for them is protection and a rizq, which is Kareem. Kareem means, which is according to the Quran, in which human self-respect, dignity is no way affected. He does not feel as if a human being is giving him rizq or her rizq. And those who are controlling it also make sure that they let everyone know that it is coming from Allah, not from their self. The moment human feelings come into it, we make it non-cream. So that is the point Quran is making us, that these human beings are my creation, that is from Allah. And they must be provided rizqun kareem. And this rizqun kareem is the one which will bring the best out of them. Allazina yuqimuna as-salata wa mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. See, Quran has explained its system of salat here. Those who establish salat and keep open that rizq which we have provided them. Right at the beginning as well, the Quran says that mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. Ulaika humul mu'minuna haqqan lahum darajatun inda rabbihim wa maghfiratum wa rizqun kareem. Right in the next verse of Surah Anfaaq, such are in truth mu'mineen, they have grades with their Rabb and protection and rizq kareem. So this is how the system of Deen will function. And we who are striving in that direction, we need to understand it and practice it to the best of our ability. Waskuru is antum qalilum mustadafuna fil ardi takhafuna an yatakhattakum an-nasu fa'awakum wa ayyadakum bi nasrihi wa razaqakum min al-tayyibati la'allakum tashkurun. I thought I should share this verse with you because there are some interesting points here. Call to mind when you were a small and weak band through the land and afraid that men might despoil and kidnap you. I think those who follow the Quran, they are in this state at present. Because they are in overwhelming majority. And interesting is, it is not the non-Muslims who are a threat to them. It is those who claim to be Muslims and not following the Quran and not benefiting from the Quran are the ones who are a threat to the pure Quranic people. It's irony. But he provided a safe asylum for you, strengthened you with his aid, and gave you good things for rizq so that your efforts bring fruition. So Quran has told us that this situation hasn't existed now. It always existed. That people in majority who did not want the Quran, they were a threat to those who wanted to live this life with rizq and kareem. Points to note here, kareem rizq is linked to iman plus saleh deeds, i.e. our self needs to understand and recognize this. Any weakness in our affairs gains strength through this process of Iman and solid deeds. Now, next, I have included some verses here which point to the rizq of the hereafter. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Think not of those who are slain in the cause of Allah as dead, nay, they live, finding their rizq in the presence of their Rabb. We have gone over this under our presentation on life and death. وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ قُتِلُوا أَوْ مَاتُوا لَيَرْزُقَنَّهُمُ اللَّهُ رِزْقًا حَسَنًا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. Those who leave their homes in the cause of Allah and are then slain or die. This is very important, that it's not only those who lay down their life, for example, they go into in the path of Allah, do something, and as a result they get killed, for example, in a war or a battle. But even those who are somehow not involved in this kind of a struggle and they have a normal death, for both Quran has included here. On them will Allah bestow the best rizq. See, the Quran is very clear on that, and this is how we should look at our own life. Verily, Allah is He who bestows the best rizq. Khairur Raziqeen over here, if we are included in that team of Allah, then we also are the ones who are going to the khair rizq to others. Some aspects already covered in the presentation on life and death. These are some of the additional points on these two verses. Rizq in this worldly life plays a central role to achieve the aim of human creation as laid down by the Quran. No rizq, no human existence, so the question of our right and wrong will never arise, i.e. to develop ourselves for further evolution in the life of the hereafter. A rizq through Rabubiyat is to be made available for every Bani Adam. There is continuation of rizq in the hereafter, though its form and nature will change. As a value, it will be required by the human self. Human beings also become one of the Razzaqeen, just like Khaliqeen. Only Mu'mineen can do khair as defined by the Quran. So if you remember, Quran has also said Ahsanul Khaliqeen. So human beings are included in that. They also take part in the creation of Allah. Now, I have drawn a schematic here just to make this presentation a bit more interesting. This is the word on which we are giving this or sharing this presentation. So this word has everything what human beings need. And if you look around it, there is nothing attached to it. So this word is self-sufficient, and everything was put into this planet right at the beginning before the human beings and life appeared. Rizq from Allah for all before the appearance of life on the planet. Now what we have done is created this kind of a word where there are have-nots and those who have plenty, but they are in a small minority. And then we have also created this word. If we look at it, there is a cycle raksha going on day and night. And he does not know what is the purpose of his creation. All he knows is that he is the slave of someone. And then there are these rich lists, and they are the ones who are controlling it. So they are the cause of it. So this whole planet we have given to these people who are in the rich list. So we should keep that in mind all the time so that we remain focused. Wahi sent to us, Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen, to establish Deen, that is the system of Rabubiyat. How long will it take? Now that is the question which comes to our mind as well. And people do ask, our members do ask. And the Quran has provided the answer. And what the Quran has said, Sanurihim ayatina fil afaqi wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. Awalam yakfi bi rabbika annahu ala kulli shay'in shaheed. I have not given the translation of this. We can check it in the Quran. I think we have gone through it many times. Dr. Hamid Mia has also explained it. So what Quran is saying is that very soon we will show you the signs in the outer world as well as within your own self. That is within your own word and within your own individual self as well. That Quran is al-Haq. Rabubiyat is al-Haq. Razzaqiyat is al-Haq. All his attributes are al-Haq. All permanent values are al-Haq. So whatever is in the Quran is Haq. Anything which human beings have done outside the Quran, as far as the Razzaqiyat is concerned, or Rabubiyat is concerned, is batil. And it is visible. And then Quran says that because Allah sees everything, He sees past, present, and the future as in one go. So it is going to pass, it is going to come at some point. So we should remain not only hopeful, but know it right in front of us. That is what Ghaib means. That this reality should be before us all the time. Rizq is in Allah's hands. Allahu yabsutur rizqa liman yasha'u wa yaqdiru wa farihu bil hayati dunya wa mal hayatu dunya fil akhirati illa mata'un. Allah does enlarge or grant by measure rizq as per His mashiat. That is according to His laws. We have seen it, that distribution is in our hands. Rejoice in the life of this world. But the life of this world is but little comfort in the hereafter. So Quran has defined the scale here. We have gone over it before as well, that the scales in this world are finite. But on these finite scales rest the infinite scales of the hereafter if we follow the Quran. Avalam yarau anna Allah yabsutur rizqa liman yasha'u wa yaqdiru inna fi zalika la ayatin liqaumin yu'minun. See they not that Allah enlarges the provision and restricts it as per His mashiat? Verily, that are signs for the people who have iman. So in it, there are signs for mu'mineen. So over here, Quran says, La ayatil liqaumin yu'minun. And that means it is for us to decipher the Quran. It is for us to interpret it and give it a meaning. Because this is our responsibility. Allah has given the book. He's explained it. We have understood it. Now we should pass it on with that understanding which Allah wants us to explain to others. Lahu maqalidu samawati wal ardi yabsutu rizqa liman yasha'u wa yaqdiru innahu bikulli shay'in alim. To Him belong the keys of the heavens and the earth. This is for us to know. He enlarges and restricts the rizq as per His mashiat. So this is for us to know that it is according to the laws, according to man-made laws. If man-made laws are the ones who are controlling it, then it will be according to Allah's laws if mu'mineen are controlling it and managing it. For He knows full well all things. So we need to know full well all things, whatever is related to this attribute. Rizq is provided by Allah to meet all human needs. Use it to rejoice in this life, but remember, in terms of scaling, this life is finite, but is linked to an eternally scaled life of the hereafter. Hence, very important. Mu'mineen will appreciate this aspect. Never think that whatever risk we encounter at a point in time at this stage of our existence will not include more. Apply knowledge and effort, and it will keep on expanding. It is important for us to understand that once the system of Deen comes, what we see now, the earth will transform to a different world where different types of, through this manifestation, will be able to change it, where human beings will not only be happy and enjoy it, but they will also have a purpose in life, which will be linked to the hereafter. Evil resulting from intoxication of wealth. Faqala ana rabbukumul ala, if you remember, Pharaoh said this to his people, and he was controlling it because that he was included in the rich list of human beings of his time. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَذِيرٍ إِلَّا قَالَ مُتْرَافُوهَا إِنَّا بِمَا أُرْسِلْتُمْ بِهِ كَافِرُونَ. Never did we send a warner to a town, but the wealthy among them said, we do kufr to that with which you have been sent. Quran has addressed a number of verses to people who are in power and who are rich, that you should follow this guidance and don't do injustices to others. So Quran has over here warned everyone that they have to face the accountability. And for us is that we should understand this and recognize and identify those who are at the helm of affairs at the top. وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذِّبِينَ. They said, we have more in wealth and in sons, and we cannot be put to Azaab. So this is another misconception or self-deception in which human beings drown themselves, and they think that physical life will end with death. And if we have money and the children and the power, then that is what we need. And that is counted or defined as success. We have gone over this aspect previously as well. قُلْ إِنْ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. We have covered this aspect in some of the verses previously. Say, verily my Rabb enlarges and restricts rizq as per his mashiat, but most men understand not. See, some people who are new to the Quran are those who read it for their own purpose, because they are not using their critical thinking and not pondering and reflecting into it. Right from here to the third verse, whole thing explains itself very easily, that it is the rich to whom Quran is addressing, and they have accumulated this. And if we see 34, 36, this verse, it can very easily be interpreted in the light of these two which are coming first, and then related to the evidence available around us. Points to note, evidence exists for pharaohs of the world possessing control over resources and means of sustenance. We know it. The world has been amply warned about the disparity between rich and poor. Those in power at all levels do not consider their accountability. Finally, the Quran is asking us to understand this by employing critical thinking. So no more messenger is coming, no more Nabi is coming in the world. So this is the duty of those who acquire the Quranic guidance and understand it. They are the ones who have to share it with others, making available in the cause of Allah. Allazina yuminuna bil ghaibi wa yuqimuna as-salata wa mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. Who have iman in the ghaib, the reality which is not yet visible, and establish to manifest this unseen reality and make that rizq available freely, which we have bestowed on them. Next verse is, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu anfiqu mimma razaqnakum min qabli an yatiya yawmun la bay'un fihi wala khullatun wala shafaatun wal kafiruna humuz zalimun. O Jamaat Mu'mineen, keep open the rizq which we have provided for you before the day comes where there is no bargaining, nor friendship, nor intercession. Those who do kufr are the zalimeen. Over here, kufr is very clear that all this which is stated before, if they deny it, they think this is all a joke, this is not serious, it doesn't happen, and there is no life in the hereafter, or there is no self-development which takes place according to the Quran, then obviously they are denying it. And one shouldn't worry about them. The issue over here is for us, that how do we move forward? وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ مِنْ أَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ هُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُمْ بَلْ هُوَ شَرٌّ لَهُمْ sayutawwaquna ma bakhilu bihi yawm al-qiyamati walillahi mirasu samawati wal ardi wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. And let not those who covetously withheld of the fadl which Allah had given to them think that it is good for them. So holding back at this stage, even now when we are involved in an individual effort at this stage, and then we have come together using this platform, we should very intensely look into these things. Nay, it will be the worse for them. Soon shall the things which they withheld be tied to their necks like a twisted collar. This is a big psychological issue where human beings who try to hold on to physical things and let physical things define their self, they are actually having chains around their necks. They have chains around their mind and intellect as well. On the day of Qiyamah, to Allah belongs the heritage of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. وَمَاذَا عَلَيْهِمْ لَوْ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَأَنْفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِهِمْ عَلِيمًا. And what burden were it on them if they had iman in Allah and in the last day, and they had made available of what Allah had bestowed on them for rizq, for Allah has full knowledge of them. So over here, Quran has, in a very beautiful style, has drawn our attention and in fact provoked our attention to think about it. And think about it that our life in this world is finite. We are not going to come back. And we should somehow be not comfortable with the man-made system, even if we are the beneficiary of this system. Hunger and poverty are Allah's Azaab. Zaraballahu matalan kariyatan kanat aminatan mutmainnatan yatiha rizquha ragadam min kulli makanin fakafarat bi an'umillahi fa'azaqaha Allahu libasal ju'i wal khawfi bima kanu yasna'un. Allah gives an example of a town enjoying security and contentment, abundantly supplied with rizq from all directions. Yet it displayed kufr of the favors of Allah, so Allah made it experience of hunger and fear like garment, engulfed from all sides, including their psyche, because of what they manufactured themselves. So Quran has made it very clear that if we do not follow the guidance of the Quran, whatever we are thinking that it will give us a life free, which will be free from fear and huzn, forget it. We can't get it. The only way to get it is go towards His guidance, and then we will benefit. And that benefit will be evidence-based. It will not be otherworldly. It will manifest itself right in this life. So there are physical aspects which are explained here, to which Quran has pointed, which is results in the economic problems. And then Quran has also pointed towards khawf. Khawf is a very cognitive thing. Of course, it is based on physical evidence as well, but it is an internal thing, the way we start thinking. Jue is, of course, with the economic side of it, and khawf is towards our cognitive side. And this all happens because of what we do, individually as well as collectively. It is more collectively because there is an example of a town or a nation or people or the whole world. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَأَخَذَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ وَهُمْ ظَالِمُونَ. And verily there came to them a messenger from among themselves, but they rejected him, so the wrath seized them even in the midst of their iniquities because of conduct of zulm. So whatever we do, individually or collectively, the effects start manifesting themselves or start appearing right at the same time, even if they are not visible. فَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاشْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. So consume of the rizq provided by Allah for you, lawful and good, and manifest this bounty of Allah towards others if it is He whom you obey. Now I made a comment here. These three verses point to our duties in this life in relation to the understanding and management of issues of rizq, informing others about the inequities in the distribution of rizq, the consequences if these are not addressed, and what to do under the system of Deen. So Quran points to the issues which human beings create for themselves, and then draws our attention, and then provides guidance, and then tells us that what it will be like when there will be no issues. Few general points. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنُطْعِمُ مَن لَّوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. And when they are told, keep open available of the rizq with which Allah has provided you, the kuffar say to mu'mineen, shall we then feed those whom, if Allah had so willed, he would have fed? A typical answer which we sometimes get, I do get many times from people, tell them you are in nothing but manifest error. People say, what are we going to do if there are no poor in the world? وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. If inhabitants of towns had iman and become muttaqi, Allah would have indeed opened out to them blessings, barakat. See, the root of, we know about the root of bereke, that the root used over here, which is also used for barakat, from heaven and earth. But they falsified the truth and we brought them to book because of their conduct. Within this root is built in is establishment and then perseverance and its own sustenance being taken care of and then becoming what it is meant to become. So over here, Quran has summed it up beautifully in this one term, barakatin minas samai wal ardi. So Quran says that if you come to this system, then you will get what you haven't even, never would have even thought of it under the man-made system. وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا اللَّهُ يَرْزُقُهَا وَإِيَّكُمْ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. How many are the creatures that carry not their own sustenance? It is Allah who provides rizq to them and to you, for He is Sami and Ali. There is a very important point here which I came across an interpretation by Allama Parwez, that in Allah's world, nobody is carrying this rizq on their back. The only one who is carrying their rizq on their back and in their head is human being, the mankind, the majority, the people particularly at the top. And they're depriving others that they don't have anything with them. And this is important to understand that in a system of Deen, we don't want people to have a burden of to be worried about their own risk, their own sustenance, so that their cognitive abilities are fully available for other type of creative activity and other issues of life, which should give them pleasure and happiness and challenges. وَجَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَعِيشًا وَمَنْ لَسْتُمْ لَهُ بِرَازِقِينَ. We have provided therein means of subsistence for you and for those for whose sustenance you are not responsible. So over here, of course, in the outer world, animal world, it is Allah's system, like birds, they get their own sustenance. But human beings do affect that as well, because we are the ones who destroy the environment and the climate in this life. So it is important that we should keep these things in mind when we come across these verses. Now, verses needing profound reflection. Now, over here, I have quoted some verses which I thought were very interesting, and we need to look at them bit closely. The Quran says, أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تَحْرُثُونَ أَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ لَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَاهُ حُطَامًا فَظَلَلْتُمْ تَفَكَّهُونَ. See you the seed you sow in the ground? Is it you that cause it to gray, or are we the cause? Right at the fundamental position or state, the Quran has drawn our attention that look at the seed, it has the potential to grow, and we have given it that potential to grow. Were it our mashiyat, we could crumble it, and you would be left in wonderment. Important point to think about. Inna la mughramoon, bal nahnu mughramoon, faraitumul ma allazi tashraboon, antum anzaltumuhu minal muzni am nahnul munzilun. Saying, we are indeed left with nothing if the seed is destroyed, or your crop is gone, or there is a natural disaster, or something happens through your own hands. Indeed, we are shut down. Indeed, we are shut out of the fruits of our labor. See you the water which you drink. Do you bring it down and rain from the cloud, or do we? See the whole hydrological cycle which has been set up for us in relation to this rizq, this system of rizq. Then Quran says, Nahnu ja'alnaha tazkiratan wa matan lil muqween. فَسَبِّحْ بِاسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْعَظِيمِ. We have made it something to reflect. That is a dhikr. Dhikr means that it needs our intense reflection and thinking and pondering into everything which the Quran is putting forward. In this whole system of sustenance on the planet, and this means of sustenance include those who need it, then pursue the attribute of Rabb, the Supreme. So Quran has summed it up, فَسَبِّحْ بِاسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْعَظِيمِ. For us, Azim means right at the fundamental level, we need to look into it. Now, what I've done is I've gone through this and put down some points for us to discuss or to think about. And I've taken it from the Durus of Allama Parwez. Explanation. These verses, which I've quoted here in chapter 56, 63 to 74, invite us to reflect on some important issues at a fundamental level. All human beings need resources and means of sustenance to be kept available in the world to live life and meet their needs at a physical level. There are two parts to these means. First is what is available free in the earth. Second is what human efforts turn into a form suitable for consumption. For example, crude oil is available and free, and we turn it into various fractions through innovation and efforts. The Quran tells us that the benefit derived from the final product must be shared across the board by dividing its profit. Take out the share of getting it free. So the initial one is made available free to us in the ground, and that we should take into account and give it for the good of mankind. Indeed, it says that even that for which you make an effort should be shared with others for the development of your own self. So this is a very finer aspect which needs our very careful and profound reflection. Now, in the next verse, what I have done is I have deciphered it a bit more. First is the Quran gives the example of agriculture by stating, we get light, air, rainwater, potential of a seed to grow, all these are free to us. Then it says that we successfully grow our crops without any storms and natural disasters. If there are no natural disasters, no storms, no untoward incident happens, then it goes risk-free. So whatever efforts we have made, the results of our efforts. It recognizes that we put in efforts in terms of sowing, building irrigation systems, procuring seeds, using implements, laboring to produce crops in our land. I put down some of these points. We add more to it through our experience. Then it states that justice demands that we take out the share of getting certain things free from Allah and giving it for the good of others. In fact, it says to give over and above the free things and give something from that product of your own efforts. So what Quran is saying is that what you got free, at least have the courtesy to give it to those who need it on behalf of Allah. If you don't want to give the fruit of your efforts and share within that, at least give that away which you got it free from Allah. So that's the point which Quran is making. It also points to our initial better start in life as well. For example, we are born into a rich family by virtue of being born in a capitalist system and have no disability, for example. Similarly, being a male, we have an advantage in an unjust system. I've just put down for our reflection. Otherwise, there is more to it. Allama Parwez has covered it, what is Islam. Rough calculations, assuming we have land. Now, based on land only, I have not brought into it the other wind power and solar energy and oil and other resources in the world. So I thought we should just expand it a bit with a tangible example. If we give weightage of 1 to light, air, rain, water, and seed potential, being born into a rich family, no handicaps, this gives a score of 6, which represents free allowance from Allah. So what I've done is I've given a weightage of 1 to light, air is 2, rainwater is 3, seed potential is 4, being born in a rich family is 5, and not having any handicaps is 6. We can add to it more as well. Our efforts, for example, we make an effort to expand on seeds and tools. We spend money on that and effort as well. Irrigation water, for example, we pay rates and whatever it is. Any overheads, all those are included here. This will lead to 5 points. So if we add 1 to everyone, so let's say for 5, this is for illustration. This is not to make it very precise. So in all, total points come to 11. Now what we do is whatever net profit we make, we divide it by 11. This gives us 11 shares. And Quran says, give away equivalent of 6 shares to the rest of the mankind because you didn't get it. You got it free. It was not yours. You didn't put crude oil in the ground. You did not produce this seed. You did not put potentials into it. You got the sunshine free. You got rainwater free. Of course, you paid for irrigation. So this is something which we need to think when we go through these verses. And this is a core message, a core value of the system of Deen. This is how the Quran invites us to think if we wish to work for the system of Deen. A totally new kind of self will emerge. So understanding this aspect is part of our self-development, and this is what divine thinking is. Ultimately, collectively, we enter into an agreement with Allah, which is given in Surah Tawbah, where Allah says that I have purchased the nafs and the possessions of mu'mineen. We need even deeper reflection. Now over here I've quoted another verse, وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنْشَأَ جَنَّةٍ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَغَيْرَ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ وَالزَّيْتُونَ وَالرُّمَّانَ مُتَشَابِهًا وَغَيْرَ مُتَشَابِهٍ كُلُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. It is he who produces gardens with trellises. Trellises mean some need support, some do not need support, like grapes need a support. And without, and dates with tilth with produce of all kinds, and olives and pomegranates, similar and different. We can apply it to every produce in the world. Eat of their fruit in their season, but render the dues that are proper on the day that the harvest is gathered. Just keep those 11 shares in mind. But waste not, keep in mind the hereafter. For Allah loves not because it leads to incongruence. So love over here means incongruence with Allah's laws. And Allah does not love the wasters, because Allah's system does not appreciate the wasters. This verse draws our attention to the fundamental aspect of the earth as a means of providing sustenance through agriculture. Manifesting this understanding is part of this attribute. Then it focuses on this aspect that whatever you do not exclude the needy and deprived from it, and take out a defined part of your earning harvest for them. Then it reminds us to not waste on oneself by being extravagant, i.e. not going beyond your needs, as it will be a waste which has no use in the hereafter. Allah does not approve of it, and links this with the share of others mentioned earlier. The verse sums up the guidance. Now, finally, I have come to this, how do we manifest this Razzaqiyat? Now, this is not a comprehensive list. This is one man's thinking. This is what I could come up with. There is a lot more to it, and we can always share it and update it later on. We need to understand the details of Razzaqiyat as explained in the Quran, and this understanding should be based on the way human choice works in acquiring these means of sustenance, and then their management, distribution, sharing. Note, distribution is a mechanical function, while sharing involves our will and choice. So it should not be a mechanical thing through which we do in the system of Deen, in which whole of our self is involved. So that is something which we need to keep it in mind. It's not mechanical. It's not something which is forced from outside or forced on our own side as well. Oh, well, I have to do it, so I should do it. No, I will do it because I like doing it. We should be able to compare and contrast the man-made distribution of risk and the arrangement of sharing under the system of Deen. And this we have to manifest as well in the outer world. When we talk to someone, we should manifest it, that this is how we see the system of Deen, and this is the way we see the world, and this is the way the Quran sees the world. At an individual level, we need to practice sharing Rizq within our possessions and reach those who need it. This should help us to understand the finer aspects of resources and means available in the world and their equitable distribution and sharing with others. The issue of Rizq distribution in the physical world to be manifested through our job and business. So whatever we are doing, we have to manifest it, even on a very minuscule scale, doesn't matter, because that is the way our self develops and understands it. Increased self-awareness in every aspect of our daily life is also essential. For example, remain on the outlook to meet the needs of others. Ponder on the resources and means in the world and how to make these sustainable, higher production to meet the needs of all, equitable distribution with minimum delay, system of accountability at all levels so that no injustices occur. Acquiring ability to communicate and then manifest it willingly and happily. There's no point in understanding something, not being able to share with others, or not having a desire to share with others. So this is important. We should be continuously thinking to multiply Rizq, because the population will increase, our needs will increase, we will have more variety, so we need to increase our choices. And look for new methods and techniques to add new varieties to what is already existing. This means increasing human choice. Some more points here. The element of Rizq should be good for the human body, and its use also needs to be legitimate as guided by the Quran. So we cannot go into that domain where Quran forbids us to go. So that is the point which we should keep it in mind and try to recognize it. In some issues which we are faced with, they become inevitable in the man-made system. But we should keep it in mind that this is the system which is imposing on us. If we could avoid it, we will try to avoid it, but not willingly participate in that. That is the important point. Minimize waste at individual and family level. Very important, because this will be the hallmark of the system of Deen, where we will avoid waste. Cycling is an important aspect of it. Growing own vegetables and other plants to gain experience of seeding, weeding, feeding, nurturing, and harvesting. In this way, we learn to appreciate the life of farmers, and we should also, whatever little we produce within our house, we should share it with our neighbors as well. Learn to store on a long-term basis. If we see in Surah Yusuf, the whole emphasis of the Quran is to store it as well. 7 days, there's a plenty of crop, plenty of harvest, and then save it for the rainy days. Growing in a controlled environment, for example, greenhouses. So that gives us varieties. That gives us the same fruits and vegetables and crops all year round. Understanding the human psyche of fear and huzn by relating it to the environment in which we live, and through empathy connect with other human beings across the world. Every child deserves respect and dignity at a fundamental level as part of Bani Adam. So we should develop our empathy, our ability to empathize with others within this attribute of Razzaqiyat. See how much Allah is aware of our feelings and our needs, and the way He's created it. He has kept all those potentials within us, and it is our duty to manifest it as much as possible. If there is not empathy coming from our inner self, develop it, work on it, discuss with others, read about it. Since all resources required for mankind are already placed on the planet, hence gaining knowledge of the existing resources and means and extrapolating these to cater for the needs of the future. This thinking, planning, and execution should be carried out within the value framework of the system of Deen. Researching existing economic systems and their detailed aspects, studying their limitations and strengths, for example, under the aspect of strength of this system, due to competition and the way markets work, innovation takes place on a continuous basis. This is an important aspect of the capitalist system where individual entrepreneurship is very much encouraged. And the companies, in fact, have a very intense program of research and development. And we should keep that in mind, that what takes human being to think. And of course, over there, the profits are the ones which are driving it. But in the system of Deen, it's a far higher goal, in which profit for the good of mankind, of course, will be included. But what we are looking at is that creation and innovation must not stop. So that is something we should study even within the capitalist system. Conclusions. Whatever is required to sustain human life on the planet has been made available for man right at the outset. It is more than enough, not only for the population in 2021, but for all times. Intellect is provided to man to change the forms of these available resources to meet the needs of all times. With progress and advancement, more of these resources will keep being discovered, and through research and development will change into ever new forms in every sphere of human life, be it food, clothing, housing, transport, even warfare. Human intellect alone will never resort to the equitable distribution of these resources and products among mankind. Human intellect needs the guidance of Wahi, which brings in the life of the hereafter as a reality of human existence. The pleasure and happiness associated with Rabubiyat is not yet known to the world of 2021. Those who follow Wahi will draw the attention of mankind to a higher and better way of living life based on ultimate reality. The Quran explains the truth about the ultimate reality, and the system of Deen will usher in a new era in the world where fear and huzn will disappear at all levels of human society. And thanks for sharing this presentation. We will now go over to question and answer session.